Hi there, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining this webinar today, where we're talking about the Project Canvas, which is a simple, universal and proven framework to increase stakeholder engagement and project success. My name is Mark Constable. I'll be your host and moderator for the session, and it's a pleasure to be joined by two guest presenters today. Firstly, I'll introduce you to Antonio Nieto Rodriguez, and I'm sure he'll forgive me for saying he's a bit of celebrity in the project management world. So Antonio's an author and professor on all things project management and a past chairman of the Project Management Institute, just to name a few accolades of his. And also it's a pleasure to be joined by Henry Kiel from KLM Engineering and Maintenance. So I'm sure many on the call will recognise KLM as the national flag carrier airline of the Netherlands. And Henry's kindly joined us today to share his experience of how he and his team have adopted and applied the Project Canvas framework. So great to have you both with us. Before we get into the detail though, I'll just cover a couple of housekeeping items. So Antonio, I think we have a slide for a bit of housekeeping. I think one more. Oh, no, one more. And there we go. So yes, just a few things to cover here. So first thing to note is we are recording the session, and everyone that's registered will receive a follow-up email from us soon after the webinar concludes, once we've got the recording online. So if you're frantically trying to scribble notes or jot down links or anything you see in the presentation, don't worry, there will be access to the recording afterwards. Secondly, you're welcome to submit questions at any stage. I'll be keeping a close eye on those throughout, and we'll try and address as many as we can towards the end. There are quite a few folks on the webinar today, so I apologise in advance that we won't get to all questions, but we'll certainly do our best to cover as many as we can. And last but not least, your feedback is very welcome. So in terms of how you found the content, how you find the process, all that feedback is very useful to us, and you'll have my email address from the reminder emails and also the follow-up email that you'll receive in due course. Okay, and just one more slide for me, I think, before I hand over to our two guests. So yeah, Project Canvas, I just wanted to give you a heads up about this certification. So this is linked to the Project Canvas course that's available via LinkedIn Learning. So now those that have completed the course have an opportunity to demonstrate their achievement with a certification from APMG. And that includes the opportunity to share your digital badge, which we've got on screen there. And we'll cover a bit more detail on that as we get a bit further into the presentation. So, and that's it from me at this stage. And I think we're going to Henry first for the KLM experience of the Project Canvas. So Henry, pleasure to have you with us, and it's over to you.
Thanks, Mark. Well, first of all, Antonio, Mark, thanks for having me in this webinar. Sharing with you the experience we have in KLM Engineering and Maintenance, applying the Project Canvas method. My name is Henry Kiel. I have over 25 years of background in finance, later on business consulting, and did a lot of project management. Currently working at KLM Engineering and Maintenance in the finance community as part of the Change and Innovation Group, doing all kinds of projects on finance improvements. So if we can go to the next slide. Yeah, thanks. So first of all, before going into details of this slide, I want to share you with some thoughts on why using the Project Canvas method. Well, doing a lot of projects during my career, I've been using a lot of different methods like Prince2, Agile, Lean Six Sigma, PMBOK, etc., etc. And I always found a little bit difficult to get the right fit with the specific organizational needs and fit with the specific project. And always did some customizing, because as we know, the well-known methods all have a lot of mandatory stuff in place, which can actually hinder the adoption beyond your own role as project manager. So, and that's the situation we have within our finance community. We want to bring project management forward beyond our own role of project management. So getting finance people on board of project management, we need to have a simple and easy to understand method, which is actually covering all the aspects. So where to start? Well, we had a lot of improvements, as you can see at the top left. We had a lot of improvement goals, and it's covering one major aspect, and that's improving the role of finance departments as business partner. And a very important aspect is doing projects, getting results from projects and supporting the business, getting things up and running really quick as possible. And it's containing, our overall goal is containing 5 elements, as you can see. Well, first of all, we start with having an overview of all projects, all initiatives. So that's challenging in the first place. As you know, all departments are running all kind of different initiatives and treating that as business as usual, which are in fact most of the times projects. So that's our goal, to get all the elements in view. The second one is improving connectivity between strategy and execution. Well, defining our strategy, which we use the OGSM method, is the first step, but linking that to all the actions and projects is something we really want to get better. Then the third one is improving results. As we all know, projects promise a lot of interesting deliverables and benefits, but at the end, not all will come true or may remain difficult. So we really want to be on the ball and getting real results from projects. The fourth one is, well, prioritization and resource planning, obviously. And at the end, we want to have a standard method for everyone using project management. So what do we have in place to accomplish that? Well, we defined a project, what is called project management way of working. We call it PMWOW in our meetings, and that's from the inner circle. 2 main components is the sponsorship and adoption part. We put a lot of effort in, and training. And the outside ring circle is showing some elements and methods we use. We have defined the Canvas process. We defined a method to get the right project approach. We have a monitor in place. We defined a priority matrix, and at the end, everything together will help us to improve portfolio management. Well, at the bottom, the approach. How do we approach this project to get everybody on board using this method? Well, we took a development kind of approach. It's a hybrid approach, a little bit predictive, a little bit adaptive. To start with templates, with processes, and then see how things are running. We do a lot of training. We have master classes for all the finance people. We are developing project management training, all on the Canvas method, obviously. We have a monthly project cafe, which is an open invitation to everybody to ask questions, to share experiences, or just sit down and review an individual case. So that's the way we are developing this Project Canvas method within our organization. And we're still in the development stage, so we are implementing in the implementation stage of the Canvas method itself. And it's really fun and really interesting to see how people are getting up and running. So to go a little bit more in detail, to show you some elements we have in place, is on the next slide, is at the top left is what you see is the template. And as you can see, it's obviously containing all the elements of the Canvas method, and we put a little bit more emphasis on planning and approval, as you can see at the bottom right part of the template. And also very important to understand is that we also put a process in place. And by saying that, a process of having approvals and discussion and decisions within our finance management team within this Project Canvas approval process. So, for instance, when we start an initiative, we start the ideation stage. We develop the benefits. We develop what the probable solution will be, and then we will present it to our management team and say, okay, is it worth to go forward? And the reason why we do that is that we want only to start a project if what will be reasonable, successful. You cannot predict the future, obviously, but we want to avoid just start a project and then later on see that it's not having a business case anyway. So that's very important. On the next slide, there is some more details on the tools we use. Actually, it's not a rocket science. Actually, we just use a SharePoint list. And the SharePoint list is having all the elements of the Canvas method, but we added fields to monitor the Canvas process. So is the project going from one stage to another, and to monitor the project steps itself. And we also link it to our strategy or OGSM. So every project is linked to the main topic of our strategy. So we can slice and dice all our projects towards the sponsor, which is linked to the stage it's in, to the rec status, etc., etc. And that's really easy to do. That's something we can all do. Just set up a SharePoint list. And we use some common customized forms, but that's just for easy to use for the project managers. And then I think I have a last slide. Maybe I'm going too fast, but maybe we have more time for questions later on. Yeah, as I was talking about earlier, is that prioritization is something really important. And to support the management team process in this, we developed a very simple, easy Excel checklist that is asking just a couple of questions on benefits and effort. And by doing so, it's automatically plotting on the priority matrix, which is helpful. Okay, what kind of project is it? Should we just pick it right away, or waiting, or what's the combination or the relation with other projects? But it's also automatically plotting on what I have developed a project track matrix. And the project track matrix is based on the implementation methods matrix as defined by Antonio in his HBR project management handbook. And I added some insights from Agile and citizen development to have a sort of flexible way of seeing, okay, you have local tracks, assisted tracks, and project management tracks. And that's combined with predictive and adaptive and the hybrid way of executing a project is helpful for us to get a view, okay, what's the best possible approach for this project. But it's also helping getting awareness for all sponsors, for empty finance members. Okay, I need to put more effort in this kind of project, and I need to be aware of risk and that kind of stuff. So this is yeah, a snapshot, so to say, of what we're all doing. We are still in the development process, and well, people from finance people are really getting interested and following the master classes, and we're sort of entering the stage that they are becoming curious on finding out a little bit more, and that's, I think, a very important step. So that was it from me, Mark.
Thank you, Henry. Can you briefly elaborate on how did you get the buy-in and how do you started the project and started to roll out, just on that part, and then I'll take over.
Yeah, good point, Antonio. Yeah, well, we sat down with our CFO of the engineering and maintenance division to talk about challenges and problems and issues we have in our finance processes and in managing our finance process, and actually at the end innovating the way we want to work. And well, I presented the Canvas method, and he was very interested in that, and then we moved on from that to get a buy-in. And well, he's a very good sponsor, so he is taking care of that. The Canvas monitor is discussed every week in his management team meeting. So that was a starting point.
Thank you. Let me take over from here. So nice to see you all. And thank you, Henry, for sharing and joining us today. A big day for us and for me as we are launching this new certification. So what I want to do is just walk you very quickly on some concepts, but then I want to spend more time on questions and answers that you might have. So first, what is the project economy? So the project economy is about the future of work, which is already now. And if you see in this slide, there is two dimensions in an organization: private, public, non-for-profit. There's the day-to-day activities, business as usual, the blue part, and then you have the change. So many years ago, there was no much need to change. And most of the resources, the employees, the managers, the budgets were dedicated to operations. But we've become better and better in that piece with all the improvements that you see, like quality management or ERP systems, have made us that we need less resources in the operations. At the same time, we've seen more and more project work. People are spending more time in project activities, and I include agile, I include self-managed teams. So that is the situation before you introduce artificial intelligence and robots, as you can see there at the bottom. When these kind of improvements, disruptions become cheap and easy to implement, then they take a big chunk of the operations. They don't take over part of the projects. That's a very difficult part to take over because that's mostly around people, stakeholders, communication, but they do very well that operational activities. And you can see some plants today, Amazon, Lego, where you don't see any people working in the plants, and that's the goal. And what you see is also an expansion to other fields that we used to call operations, like finance, marketing, sales. So all these activities are going to be impacted to a certain degree or quite a lot by this artificial intelligence and robots. So what does it mean? It means that the majority of the people, not just the project manager, but a large part of the employees, managers, will be spending almost all their time in projects. So this is 30 to 80 or 70% of the employees will be working in projects. So that's an exponential growth. And this is disruptive because it changes the whole workplace. It's not so much about do we work remotely or do we work from home. The future of work is a very different way of working and collaborating with each other to deliver outcomes for the organization. So that's the project economy, very briefly. Don't want to bother you with that. Another big driver and something that I am trying to address since years is the performance rate of projects is still very poor. If you look at different resources and research from Harvard, from McKinsey, from Brightline, you can see that up to 70% of the projects fail, which is incredible, right? How is it possible that we let so many projects fail and we need to step up? So I started to spend quite some time researching and understanding what is going wrong and how can we improve that. So part of this project Canvas is a tool to help to increase the success rate in projects. So I always said that I was surprised that in the world of projects, we don't talk about disruption. We talk about disruption everywhere, as you can remember. But then there is the problem, why don't we disrupt project management? On top of that, there has been quite some, you see the results and they're not great. So how can we keep doing the same type of project management as we've done for the last 40 years and not change that? Bad results, the world is changing, but we're not changing project management. That doesn't make sense, right? So what I wanted to do is to share. There's different areas that I cover in other webinars on how we can reinvent project management. And I think there's 3 main areas, at least. One of them is changing how we monitor and assess projects to introduce 2 more triple constraints, one on engagement on the people side, and another triple constraint on the benefits. So far, we had only the triple constraint on the scope, time, and budget. So that's number 1. And there's a lot of articles I've written about that. The second is about expanding the reach of the life cycle of projects. We don't cover today innovation. I don't know why, but I think it's part of that cycle, and we should understand innovation. We should facilitate it. And then also at the end of the project, what do we do? I think there's going to be quite a lot of new technologies that help us to automate much more of the current project management practice, like reporting or chasing people to get updates. That should be hopefully very soon automated. So that's point number 2, expanding the life cycle of the project from both sides. And the third point is about simplification. So I'm going to deep dive on that one because that's the main reason why I developed the Project Canvas. I guess most of you have heard some of these management concepts. If you study management or business or a master or MBA, you would recognize some of these theories. The ones that they are taught and mostly remember and use are super simple, right? The 5 forces of Michael Porter. With this framework, which has just 5 components, you can discuss the strategy of your business or your organization or your country. Imagine just with 5 elements. You don't need to be an expert. You don't need to do a master on strategy. Everybody can contribute. If we think about marketing, there's another framework which is super simple, the 7 Ps of marketing from Kotler. Super simple, 7 Ps. We can all discuss our views on the different elements and together have a draft plan that we can later validate for marketing launches, for example. So super simple, easy to remember, 7 Ps. If you look at business model, there's this business model canvas, which is super simple, right? If you want to look at your business or a new business, you just take this canvas, which is 9 dimensions, and you can have a very good discussion with your team, with the senior leaders about the different aspects of your business. And the last one I want to highlight, but there's many, is the Agile, right? Agile Manifesto, which was super simple and disruptive because it was simple. But if I ask anyone here on the call, do you know anything simple in project management? Any tool that is super simple that everybody can understand in like 15 minutes or 20 minutes? Is there anything that you know? No. That was my conclusion. Most of the most or all the concepts in project management are extremely technical, too complex. I'm not saying they're wrong, but they're not appropriate for a big part of people working in projects. Maybe 5% of the people will deep dive and use all these concepts and get certified with a Prince 2 or PMP certification. These are the experts, the professionals, but I think there's so many other people working in a project, like sponsors, managers, team members who don't want to. They just want to contribute, understand what's the project about, and just do it, right? So very simple. So what happens with project management is that it's too complex and technical. There's tons of paperwork. It's focused on processes. People think it's not adding much value, so then don't apply it or partially apply. So that has been one of the reasons why we have not applied good project management practice or getting buy-in around the project from the key stakeholders. If you look at, this is the PMBOK from PMI, so you can see the exposure, the exponential growth of the number of slides from the first exposure draft, 64 pages, to 1996, the first edition, 176. And then the sixth edition had 756 pages. And I was wondering, who's going to read that, right? It's a great resource. Like material from Prince. It is great stuff, but it's just for the technical people. It's a great stuff to have, but you cannot expect a sponsor or a team player to take care of that. So that is the issue. And you look at the 7th edition, and they have done really a good job with that. You see the change on the number of pages. So they have really cut it and in half and focus more on outcomes and benefits. So that's good. People have understood that we need to do something. And then I had the pleasure to meet Alex Austerwald and Yves Pignon several times. We became not really friends, but we kind of know each other. And I was inspired. Really, this was my inspiration 4 years or 5 years ago when I started to think, how can I simplify project management? And this was, I based myself on the business model canvas. I discussed with Alex and Yves what will be the best way. I made some proposals, and I'm going to briefly show you the project canvas. So there's 14 elements, there's 4 dimensions, 14 building blocks. It starts with the why, and in the why you have the rationale, so the business case, which we know, but I always thought business cases always look good. So we need, and they're not engaging. People don't get engaged or committed to a project if there is a 10% return investment. People want to do projects with impact. So that's why I think I was the first one introducing the purpose in the project management world. And I think this is a big important topic and tool that we should use in our projects is identifying the purpose of our projects. So that's the first dimension. The second dimension is the who. So who is responsible for the project, who's accountable for the project. And that's, I think that's a very important element is the sponsor, right? Especially for strategic projects, transformation, digital transformation or other sustainability transformation. You need a very strong person at the top who will help the project manager to drive the change. And the governance, who's doing what, who's the project manager, and so on. So we have the first dimension, why, the who. Then the third one is the biggest and the one that you would recognize most is the what, the how, and the when. So these are elements that you know, the scope, the time, the cost, the triple constraint are there, the quality, risk, and procurement. And then you have the soft side, the soft elements, human resources, stakeholders, and change management. I think communication you see often as one of these areas, but today with communication is not enough. I think we need to think about change management. It's a better tool. And the fourth dimension, which is about more external from outside the project, is the organization, right? Are you delivering the project in a project-driven organization where the project is empowered and decisions are made quickly and there's budget dedicated resources? Or are you doing a project in a still hierarchical organization with many other projects where decisions are slow and so on? So that has an impact in your project as well. Okay, so that's the canvas. It's super easy. It's just one page, and if you can bring that to any type of meetings, like you see Henrik, he did that in KLM. You can customize it. This is a tool that I give out for free. You can customize it, but most of the elements have to be there if you want to really deliver a project successful. And what I wanted to do in the next 5-8 minutes before we open up I wanted to do a small demonstration of how to use the canvas to analyze a project. So I have here a video of a project which was it was an important project at the time in 2013. It was called the healthcare.gov website. It was a website that was developed for implementing a policy called Obamacare, which was allowing lower class income people to have access to medical services and insurance. So what I've done is I will share with you a video, and then we're going to analyze it through the lens of the canvas. Okay. So let me share the video here. You should hear the sound. Just pay attention. It's about 3-4 minutes, but with the information that you see in these 3-4 minutes, we'll be able to develop this canvas. Okay, going on.
I want to get to this issue of exactly who is in charge of this project, because you're now blaming it on the contractors and saying it's Verizon's fault. So who is responsible for overseeing this project?
We own the site. The site has had serious problems.
Who is in charge, Madam Secretary?
The person now in charge as an integrator is QSSI, one of our...
Who was in charge as it was being built?
Was in charge up till...
At that team, who is the individual?
Michelle Snyder is the...
Michelle Snyder is the one responsible for this debacle.
Well, excuse me, Congresswoman, Michelle Snyder is not responsible for the debacle. Hold me accountable for the debacle.
Okay.
I'm responsible.
Thank you. I yield back.
The Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act came into effect in 2010, and now every American is required to have health insurance. The government set up a website that was supposed to be the easiest way for everyone to shop and get enrolled, and that was healthcare.gov, which is arguably the largest consumer-facing web app the government has ever built.
I'm covered.
We're covered. Now we're covered.
Enroll now, the health insurance marketplace at healthcare.gov.
And on the first day, October 1st, 2013, it didn't work.
Today was the first opportunity for millions of Americans to go to these new exchanges and sign up for insurance under Obamacare. And it turned out so many people tried to do that, computers crashed.
You've probably heard that healthcare.gov hasn't worked as smoothly as it was supposed to work.
There were major problems all over the country. Websites were slow or crashed altogether, leaving a lot of folks angry and frustrated.
Healthcare.gov, as the website is known, got some serious glitches into its system yesterday.
There's going to be a lot of evaluation of how we got to this point. There is a larger problem that I probably could have identified earlier, and that is the way the federal government does procurement and does IT is just generally not very efficient. I think it's fair to say that we have a pretty good track record of working with folks on technology and IT from our campaign. Both in 2008 and 2012, we did a pretty darn good job on that. On my campaign, I could simply say, who are the best folks out there? Let's get them around a table. Let's figure out what we're doing. And we're just going to continue to improve it and refine it and work on our goals. If you're doing it at the federal government level, you're going through 40 pages of specs and this and that and the other, and there are all kinds of laws involved.
Right now, the procurement process basically says that you have to buy a website like you buy a battleship.
How many different companies ended up working on the final product?
The contract that CMS ended up using to fulfill most of this work had 16 contractors on it. And if you go through and look at all of their subcontractors, there's, at least a dozen more.
The contractors that built healthcare.gov, all large Beltway insiders like CGI Federal and Lockheed Martin, were actually selected years before the Affordable Care Act passed, before anybody knew we'd be building a health insurance exchange. That's because the government likes to buy things using broad indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, or IDIQ contracts.
The exchange is comprised of 6 complex systems and involves 55 contractors, including CGI Federal, 5 government agencies, 36 states, and more than 300 insurers with more than 4,500 insurance plans, all coming together in healthcare.gov.
What do you think is the fix at this point?
There's only one fix for Obamacare. Got to repeal it. This is never done. I mean, that's the only fix. We tried to delay it. We had a big fight about it. Now people know why we fought so hard. I mean, see how bad it is when they see what's the notices are getting, your policies being dropped, the increase in premiums, you're not going to be able to keep your own doctor, the website doesn't work, you can't compare price. Now they know why we fought so hard. The only answer is to repeal this.
The president had to apologize for a website and
I want to get to this.
So the president had to apologize for a website in the Rose Garden. Incredible, right? So if we look at if we take the canvas and I let you think for a couple of seconds, is what were the major issues with this project? What was missing? I used the canvas with colors. So red is that part, this building block is completely missing or wrong or poorly done. So you could color code some of these boxes in red for sure. You can put something in amber, there's something, but it's not perfect. And then greens is this part of the project is well covered, right? So that's how I like to use it in a first instance, just the color coding to give me a picture of how does the project look like. So you can see the different areas, and I'm sure some of them come to mind, right? Risk management, clearly, what's their plan B? Executive sponsor, who's in charge? Nobody seems to be in charge, and the governance. Procurement at bottom. Nobody knows how many consulting companies are working, right? And then quality, why they didn't do a test before launching and opening up, right? And then the where, you can see how Obama is saying that doing a project, IT project in the public sector is like building a battleship. So that culture, project driven, is not adapted in the public sector. So very easy to identify, right? So let me just show you how it would look like when you use the canvas to analyze a project. And I'm sure you won't be that far from what I just shared here. It's basically the why makes sense. I think there's no big issue on that part. There's a rationale and there's a bigger purpose, but then you start on the who, on the governance, on the sponsor. It's just, we know that a project of such dimension, if there's no executive sponsor active, involved, that understands, supports, it's going to fail most likely. Then the governance, then you have the scope. The scope, it's just a website. It's a massive, big scope, but it's just a website, right? Very complex. So we all know, and I do a lot of teaching and give some advice, but the scope, when it's too big, just put it, make it smaller, in smaller pieces, right? The time, it's an issue. Cost, not because you have all the money available in the world, that doesn't mean that your project will succeed. In this case, an important project for Obama, cost was not an issue, but you see they missed at least 8 or 9 of the key fundamentals. That's failure for sure. The quality, lack of testing, the risk management, no plan B, stakeholders, some of them quite against, change management, poorly done, and then the organization. So I think what you can see in this canvas is this project is going to fail. I always say you can predict project failure. You can predict project failure. You cannot predict project success. You can increase the chances of success, but project failure, almost 100%. If you don't address any of these threats, that project will fail. We could have done this analysis 6 months before the launch in October 1st, 2013, and we would have seen the same issues. Okay, so just a very quick practical use of the canvas. You can see super simple. And there's another case, and you see the other project, which is the first iPhone called Project Purple. And there, yeah, they just incredible project. They manage excellence. They cover all the 14 areas. To the point, for example, on the wear, where they created a really 100% dedicated project team with the best resources in Apple. They put them in another building. The sponsor, Steve Jobs, spending up to 2 days per week on the project. So you can easily compare, and this is the point, with senior leaders, with colleagues, with your team, which project needs urgent action, because otherwise it's going to fail. So as you can see, my goal of simplification is shown in these slides. I just wanted to make everybody understand very quickly the key elements of a project. You can do this in half an hour. Of course, if you want to be a good project manager, you need to learn all these elements in detail and the tools that go along and how to use them. But on a bigger picture, like the business model canvas, it does make everybody understand much better what your project is about and what's missing. So the canvas is easy to apply. Also for the non-professional, focus on the project fundamentals. It identifies weak and strong areas. It just increases the dialogue. Instead of having a report of 10 pages, 10 slides, no, this is just one slide, and we can see what's the problems, and we spend time talking and finding solutions as a team, not reading and trying to understand all the details. And then it creates a lot of alignment, yeah, and buying around the project. People use the canvas to add post-its, and people can read that, and it's a nice, very simple communication tool. As part of that vision of simplification that you see in the canvas, simplification, modernization of project management, I thought there had to be a way for people who just want to get recognition of being able to understand the fundamentals of project management in a simple way. And most of the material to prepare for the project canvas are for free. I'm going to share with that. And then, as Mark was saying at the beginning, it's a low-cost kind of certification. We didn't want to make it very expensive. We think that anybody can be recognized for understanding these fundamentals, and get the credit for that, and be able to put that in your CVs and LinkedIn. So it's not against the other methodologies. The others are and certifications, which are require more time, are more costly, much more detailed, which I think is complementary. Okay, so this is some of the benefits of becoming and what you will be shown. And I think keep learning is always great. And you can find a lot of information either in the APMG website or my website here, Antonio Nieto Rodríguez. You can download the Project Canvas guide. And with that, you will have a strong basis for taking the exam. You have a Project Canvas LinkedIn course. If you are able to access that for free, you just spent an hour, maybe I think it's a bit less than an hour, and with that and the guide, you have enough. Of course, you can read my books, The Project Revolution, or has much more details, the HBR as well. I often make for free some of these trainings. If you follow me in LinkedIn or just join my LinkedIn newsletter, you get this kind of offers for free. There's also the strategy implementation professional video that you see there, which is linked to the strategy implementation professional certification that you see at the bottom there, right, that we have with the PNG. So wanted to do something accessible, not too expensive, easy to learn, easy to pass and go for the exam, and then hopefully you become recognized, and this will help you in your career. So all in the same mindset: simplification, impact, and making you better, and in the end delivering projects more successfully, which is what organizations and leaders are looking for. And this is what Mark already shared, so how to look for it in the page, APMG and the price, and that's it. I think we are coming to the Q&A questions, so I'll pass it back to Mark to see if there's any questions from the audience. Thank you for listening on.
Yeah, thank you, Antonio. Got a few questions to start with, and I saw a few more come in. A couple of questions around how people can access the Canvas template, and I know you just covered that on a slide, so I guess we can include that in the follow-up email as a simple, quick download. Yeah, so we'll make sure we do that. And so Josephine asks, is this certification useful if you don't actually use Project Canvas at work? And I'm sure you'll add to this, Antonio, but I'd say it would be useful because it would demonstrate either if you were looking for a promotion internally or an alternative role, then it would demonstrate your understanding of the core project management fundamentals. Would you add anything to that, Antonio?
Absolutely. I think it's a great question, and I think first it will make you better. Second, I think you'll get the recognition, because while you prepare for the exam, and again, it will not take that much, you will deep dive on these 14 fundamentals. As you can see, you can show that you understand the Canvas, the 14 elements. You can discuss that. You can highlight issues and weak areas. So definitely, if your company is not using the Canvas, which is the case, I think Henry is one of the pioneers, but there's more and more companies I hear that they're using. It's definitely a benefit for you. It happens the same with the business model Canvas. Remember, I showed you the picture. They do workshops of 2 days to get it and get certification is quite more expensive, but it's just appreciated. I think people will appreciate it. I'm almost sure. Good question.
Thanks, Antonio. And I'm sure Henry might be able to jump in on this one. So Andrew's asking, what are some of the common challenges with using the Project Canvas?
That's a question for me, Mark.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, the main challenges. The main challenges is that if you are working with people, non-project management related people, like finance people in our case, is that you first have a sort of hurdle to go, that they are thinking that project management is really difficult and will take a lot of time. And so everybody's a little bit careful. Okay, we're going to do project management. We are going to use the Canvas method. Okay, well, project management, I'm busy anyway, so I want to be careful in spending a lot of time on it. So, and project management in general is sounding, for a lot of people who are not in project management, as difficult, as a lot of things to do, about risk. And so the first hurdle to take is to getting awareness that project management is not always difficult, and it can be easy if you pick the right topics to focus on, if you have the right methods in place, the easy to use, the Canvas method, obviously. So that's the first one, and after that, actually before that, the first step we took, obviously, is to get the sponsor in place. So before starting this project anyway, it was really important for us to have our CFO sponsoring this project, because without having the right sponsor, it will become very difficult to get everybody on board using at the end this method. So that's the first step to take, and then obviously you're gonna go into a change process. It's actually implementing is also being aware of the change, and that's the challenge we're dealing with, and that's actually in all projects, as Antonio was explaining. All projects are change management, and more or less, some have a big deal of change management involved. So it's all about people and working with people, getting people enthusiastic, and that's what we do. And I think we are taking these hurdles pretty good, but it's always a matter of sustaining and keep going to have everybody on board.
Great, thank you, Henry. And question, I think it's a good question from Nico. Probably go to you first, Antonio. Is the project canvas a static document only filled at the start of a new project, or is it a process of continually adjusting the canvas over the life cycle of the project?
Also, great question, Nico. It's evolving, so you can use the canvas at the beginning of the project just to assess whether you're ready for it. If you miss more than half of the boxes, I would say don't start. There's something missing that you need to work out. And then the second step where you come into checking, it's a bit like a health check, right? So you can check throughout the project life cycle several times to see have we changed anything? Is there anything that we had in control that we don't have in control now? So it's just a bit of an ongoing. The boxes don't change, the fundamentals are the same, but definitely it's a tool that you can use throughout the project, even at the end as well, to check how well you did.
Great, thanks, Antonio. And there's a couple of questions sort of similar to this theme. So do you think the Project Canvas certification would be a greater benefit to non-PM professionals, e.g. for operational teams outside looking to initiate change outside of a project management office, or do you think current project managers would benefit from it too?
Absolutely, I think that's one of the goals. Is really, I think the professional project managers, they will go for a Prince 2 practitioner or PMP, and that's great. But like I was saying before, I think about 80% or 90% of people working in a project, they don't need a PMP, they don't need a practitioner, but they will be really benefiting from having a Project Canvas practitioner certification, and it doesn't take that much. It requires a bit of reading and then common sense and practicing a little bit, and you'll get it. So I definitely think that's the biggest audience that we want to help to get better with their projects.
Brilliant, thanks, Antonio. And there's 2 or 3 questions around the sort of training process. So a couple of, I'm sure a number of people on the call will be familiar with the APMG model, where training is provided by accredited providers, but this is slightly different. So it's purely an online learning course available via LinkedIn Learning. So you don't go through a training provider as such. What do we have next? Do you show templates for the 14 dimensions in the course of the Project Canvas model?
There is best practice tips, tools. So yeah, there is in the LinkedIn training, there is always an example and a reference to a tool in the guide that you can download from my website or APMG. You also find more details, not a full list that I think you need to go for the book, but enough to be able to perform those tasks and understand the fundamentals, for sure.
Perfect, thanks, Antonio. What's the question next? This is a bit more of a general one, but have you any advice for traditional hierarchical organisations that will help them move towards a project management structure and culture?
I leave that to Henry.
Can you repeat a little bit, Mark? Sorry.
Yeah, do you have any advice for hierarchical organisations for adopting a more project management structure and culture?
No, that's a very good one. I think project management can be in place in all kind of different kind of organizations. So if you're talking, if the question is sort of coming from a thought that it's not possible to use that within in hierarchical organizations, but I think that's something different. Well, doing projects is actually solving a problem or sizing an opportunity. That's if you take a little bit step behind and looking at the general way, then all companies have to deal with issues and challenges and have opportunities which they want to leverage. And that's what project management is doing. So regardless the way the organization is structured, it can be applied. What you have then in the situation that you will start a project using Canvas method or another method is that you have circumstances to deal with. So that's one of the aspects you will put in your Canvas. This is mainly the where part, to say, okay, what are possible restricting elements that can impact my project. So, and as long as you have a thorough thought on what's going on there and what the impact will be on your project, then you can present that to your sponsor or to your to the person who's asking you to do the project, and say, okay, if we look at all the elements of the Canvas method, I see in the where, so how our organization is structured, a real risk or an element that's real bothering the getting the results from this project. And that's the key, I think, to have that in place in the starting situation of your project, and then discuss the impact of that situation on your project. And if it's really hindering getting the results, well, then maybe start first in looking, okay, how can we solve the elements that is blocking this result for this project.
Great, thanks, Henry. Lovely. We're getting very close to our hour, so I think we better start wrapping up. I'll just do one final question. It's a very quick one. Somebody asked if the certification is available in different levels, e.g., for example, foundation, practitioner, or master, but it's just the one practitioner level. So if you if you do follow the course on LinkedIn and then choose to do the certification exam, and you're successful in the exam, you'll be recognised as a Project Canvas practitioner. So that's a nice simple one for us to finish off on. And so to wrap up, it just leaves me to say thank you to everyone that's attended the session today. I hope you found it informative and valuable, and I do hope a lot of you will be off to check out the Canvas. And thank you, of course, so much to Henry and Antonio for joining us today and for your contributions. Really valuable stuff for us there. And just a reminder that you should receive a follow-up email once we've got the recording online, and we'll try and feature as much as we can in that follow-up email. So we'll provide links to the Canvas, links to the course, the certification, etc. So hopefully we'll cover everything in that follow-up email. But if we don't, of course, you'll have my details. So do feel free to get in touch. And just finally, yeah, there's a few links on screen there where you can find out more now. But as I say, don't worry if you're scrabbling down links. We'll share those in the follow-up email. So thank you again, everyone. I hope you enjoyed looking at the Canvas, and thank you again to Henry and Antonio. And we hope to see you on future APMG webinars in the future. Thanks, everybody. Bye bye.
It was a pleasure. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.